Welcome back to GrokTALK. My name's Steve McDonald. I'm here with Skip Murphy and Mike Rogers, brought to you weekly by the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers and GraniteGrok.com. Check us out on Facebook. Look for us on Twitter. And by all means, read the blog, people.
And occasionally find us on LinkedIn, too.
Occasionally on LinkedIn, yes. Mike is kind enough to have broached that area. Too much of my actual professional career is tied to my LinkedIn account, so I really don't want to be throwing bombs at progressives on my LinkedIn account.
Which is why I'm a little sparing. I send stuff which I think is either earth-shaking or particularly amusing.
Yeah, something general enough that the population might go, oh, well, as opposed to, heaping on the hate or whatever they call me.
That's all right. I mean, I'm okay where I am right now because our CEO actually knows I'm a conservative gun nut and puts up with me.
Oh, very good. All right, well, let's move on into the segment with our next guest. Warner Todd Houston is a contributor at Breitbart.com, has his own blog, Publius Forum, and you may have heard of him. He's been around. He's been on Fox News. He's been on a bunch of different places, and we're very happy to have him here because he's the guy that helped me get mentioned on Rush Limbaugh. Warner Todd Houston, welcome to GrokTALK.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Great to have you here.
We're delighted. I haven't seen your hat in a long time. Still keeping the fedoras going?
Oh, yeah. I got about 200 of them.
Oh, wow. You put Pete to shame. Our friend Pete, the tech guy, of course, he's up here a lot closer. Anyway, tell us how things are down there in the land of Breitbart and on Publius Forum.
Well, everything's going really well. I mean, Breitbart is expanding like crazy, and we're getting, more hits on that good old internet every day. We've got a new London office that just opened, and it's going great.
Yeah, and you've got the Texas office as well.
Right.
Yeah, and Warner, I want to say thanks for coming on the show. This is Skip. You and I have known each other for a number of years now. We first met at the Sam Adams blogsphere. Way back in Chicago land, what was it, about 7 years now. And I remember meeting you because we sat down at one of the breakout sessions, and you and I almost started a little bit of a fight between the two of us. And I never forgot that, but you've turned out to be a good blog friend over the years. And over at Right Wing News, you got mentioned by John Hawkins. And let me read a line from the post two lines that you put up on the post. But if you are a concealed carry holder, you should ignore these attempts to curtail your rights. If you are legally armed, feel free and patronize these stores with your firearm, no matter what these anti-constitutional store owners wanted. Now, we are known for New Hampshire's leading fire-breathing, hard-charging, gun-toting, outspoken, rabble-rousing, freedom-loving blog site. So you were writing about Sonic and Starbucks and a couple of others where the Moms Demand Action are trying to get these chain restaurants to tell gun owners, go away. And here you are saying, screw them.
Right. I mean, well, let's say the first thing about what a concealed carry license is. It's concealed. They don't have to know you have it. That's the first thing. But naturally, I'm sort of advocating a little bit of civil disobedience here. Let's face it. But the point is, these little stickers that these stores are putting out in front of their stores really have no force of law. They can request you to leave. They can request you not to come, certainly. But there is no force of law there. Now, of course, and I should reiterate here, and I didn't really mention it in the piece, but I should say it here. There are laws in various states where it tells you where you cannot bring your firearm, and I'm not suggesting we ignore those laws. I am simply suggesting that people that are trying to use their constitutional right of private property to tell you that you can't go into their store. And one of the points I make in my piece is that one constitutional right does not trump all other rights. So, for instance, you cannot use your right of private property to, as we have been finding out lately, you cannot use your right of private property to say you won't serve gay people, for instance, or that you won't serve black people, because your constitutional right of private property does not prevent you, or allow you, rather, to trump their legal rights. So, this is the concepts that I'm bringing in this piece.
Well,
I would actually stand against that. Sorry, Skip. You go next.
I find it just a little strange because we, being here in New Hampshire, the live free or die state, live in a shall issue carry permit area where basically you will have your carry permit in about 14 days as long as the local constabulary can't find a reason to deny it to you. Where you're calling, you're out in Illinois where some of the most strictest gun laws exist, and Chicago seems to be worse than Mogadishu in some weekends.
True. Absolutely true.
But I look at that and go, yeah, and again with the tragedy in California where they've done all the gun laws that were talked about after Sandy Hook, and it shows how hard it is to be able to basically control violence. And I'm not going to put gun in front of that word because violence comes from the heart and the mind, not from a hunk of metal and plastic on your hip or anywhere else concealed. But
the guy was out to maim and kill, and he was going to do it with bits of metal, with guns, with his vehicle, anything he could get his hands on.
Yeah, but my question is, a lot of us who are conservative with libertarian leanings, Warner, and we're talking with Warner Todd Huston, don't we have this idea that if it is my property, shouldn't I be able to control it to some degree? And you brought up the other thing about the bakers having to create wedding cakes for gay marriages, even though they think it's sinful, what that entails and all that other stuff. But don't we really want to be able to say, if I own this property, I should be the one who should have the ability to say what goes and what doesn't?
And that was what I was going to bring up. The right of free association is the other one. I can, in other words, if I walk into the store and either don't see the sign or ignore it and my weapon's concealed, so be it. If the store owner then says, please leave, I don't want your business, then I regard that as his right. I'll never come back.
And certainly that's a choice. I mean, I absolutely agree with that. I've had quite a few people email me and say, well, heck, I just don't go to those stores. And that's fine. But you also have a right to go to those stores as well if you want to. But again, we've already had the law, the Supreme Court even, say that a store owner cannot just decide who he wants to and who he does not want to serve in your free association. In an ideal world, a libertarian world, perhaps, any store could deny anybody for any reason, and that there's a lot to be said for that too. But we're not in that world.
Well, is that a world that we would want to go back to? And I know all the progressives and liberals say, well, then we'll come back to segregated areas and all of that. And I look at this going, you're right, Todd, that there is no legal law that says that I can't bring my concealed carry weapon in with me when I go to Sonic or Starbucks or Chipotle or anywhere else. Jack in the Box, where they made it a gun-free zone, and now look at all the robberies that are now happening on those properties. But isn't there a moral consideration at the individual level? Do I want to respect what I'm being asked for? But are the liberals creating this segregated environment out, from their moral standpoint? And what do we do to push back on it? Other than, if you go in with a concealed weapon, sort of like the tree, if it falls in the woods, doesn't make a sound, and who cares?
Right, exactly. And of course, you did just bring up the dichotomy there. Do we self-segregate, or do we allow the liberals to segregate us, gun owners, away from their world, their shops, their stores? Do we allow that? Should we accept that? Should we essentially be forced to ride the back of the bus just because we're gun owners? That's the consideration here, and this is where my point is a certain amount of civil disobedience to say, no, I'm standing here, I am a gun owner, I'm legal, I'm licensed by your very state, that you're trying to tell me that I can't come into your shop, even though your own state says that I am a legal gun carrier. You see what I'm saying?
Right. My question, though, comes that let's look at the baker that has just lost his case out, basically told you've got to do this. Do we take that same liberal tactic and use lawfare against other individuals just to get our own way? Are we to that point on the conservative, on the right side of center, to be able to say, yeah, I'm going to do that because I'm tired of the other side?
And I think we do it at a more polite level. I think we go in, and if they tell us to leave, we leave and don't come back. But we basically ignore their silly rules and make them be silly.
But would you want to be willing to say, okay, I want to take my gun on my hip unconcealed, and if you don't like it, I'm going to take you to court?
Well, as far as unconcealed goes, there's, you have to follow your own state's law for that.
Correct.
For instance, here in Illinois, I could not carry an open carry. It is not legal here in Illinois to carry open carry.
It is here. Na 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 na.
Hey, we're lucky we got concealed at all. We're the last one
true,
in the entire union to get it. Yeah.
Well, as we often say, we are the safest podcast here in New Hampshire every single week.
Yeah, we're all armed. I wanted to Skip's point. Is there? I don't know. You think there's an environment where, say, somebody is forced to disarm themselves to maybe attend a function with a family member or somebody else who's having a party at a restaurant, and then somebody comes in and kills somebody, wrongful death suit. Now, if you were a liberal, and it's the home, like Skip was saying, I mean, are we at a point, do you think, where that might begin to happen, where, law-abiding gun owners who've been disarmed by establishments make the case just like the liberals did?
Well, and you absolutely know that's coming. We have these little anti-gun stickers, and eventually all these issues will be settled in the courts. And I understand your reticence to want to be like the liberals, and use lawfare. But on the other hand, not only is that what our system is for, if we don't, then we're going to be continually put at a disadvantage with never answering to it. So yes, I believe we have to use the same system that is being used against us to correct the problem.
Warner, we're going to take 60 seconds. Stay on the line. We'll be right back. We are talking to Warner Todd Houston from Breitbart.com. Hang on.
He was a fiscal conservative, but State Senator Dave Booten has been deceiving New Hampshire taxpayers. Like a wolf in sheep's clothing, he claimed to be one of us, pretending to blend in, but all along, voting like a liberal Democrat. He voted to raise your gas tax by another 23%, taking a bigger bite out of our wallets every time we're at the pump. And oh, how he drooled at the opportunity to vote to expand Obamacare, which will result in higher taxes and longer wait times in the emergency room. And now the Senate wants to pass a bill to prevent us from criticizing Senator Booten's vote? Call Senator Booten at 603-203-5391 and tell him that we're on to his wolf in sheep's clothing routine. Tell him to stop pretending to be a fiscal conservative and start voting like one. Paid for by Citizens for a Strong New Hampshire.
Okay, we are back with Warner Todd Houston from Breitbart.com and Publius Forum. We were talking about concealed carry and things near and dear to our hearts. We conceal carry everywhere. I was in a Fridays the other week with my kids at the end of a week of vacation, and I had gone in, of course, concealed carry. I carry everywhere I go because I can. And as we're walking out, my daughter goes, "Dad," and she points at the sign that I didn't see when I walked in. And she goes, "They don't allow guns in here." I go, "That's why I carry concealed."
Where was this?
Fridays.
What town?
Amherst.
Oh.
Now they know. They're going to be looking for me.
And what are they going to do?
Nothing. I'll just eat somewhere else. So, all right.
And that's the point. In thinking of somewhere else, what about conservatives and gun rights advocates putting their own malls together and saying, this is a shall carry zone, or at least you know what I mean, making guns welcome. You can't open a store there unless you allow gun owners to carry.
Isn't that called Texas?
Well, yeah, but it would also make the point that it's going to be the safest place to shop very quickly.
Well, it certainly would be safer than anywhere else, wouldn't it? Wouldn't you think?
That's what I think.
It would. So I think we beat this horse a little bit. What else is hot right now that you're talking about that you'd like to cover here?
Well, geez, there's, the whole world.
I'm sorry,
crazy
target-rich environment. I apologize. Yep, go ahead.
It is, especially here in Illinois, where here's a quick, for instance, Illinois, and maybe you New Hampshireites might feel sorry for us. We had a tax hike that was supposed to be temporary, that even the weak Republican Party here agreed to, and naturally, as soon as it came close to the tax hike being, running out and sunsetting, they decided, oh no, we need to make it permanent. So they got a guy that is under indictment right now and getting tried for corruption to put off his trial a couple of weeks so that he could vote for the tax hike. There's Illinois for you. There's Illinois, folks.
Yeah, that's definitely Illinois.
I mean, this is one of the jokes that I look upon. Illinois, Maryland's in a bad way, Connecticut's in a bad way, California is leading the bunch. And I keep looking at this going, how much longer can these guys sustain? Every single week I see another story coming out of California where the company has gotten up and left because of the anti-business environment. My own company, even though I work here in New Hampshire, it was based in California. They just moved to Austin, Texas. And a big part of that was we can't take the taxes and the regulations anymore. And this is a high-tech firm with lots of people that just said, we're packing up and moving out. You must be seeing the same kind of drain out of Illinois. You're seeing that in the papers all the time, right?
Yeah, and it's so bad that almost every other month we have a note from one of the surrounding states' governors thanking us for all the businesses that are streaming into their states from Illinois.
Don't they just get it?
No, they do not, because their power base is secure, and that's really all they care about. They really don't care about anything that would make a healthy state. Illinois ranks in the bottom 5 in practically every single metric for what makes a successful state, and it's been that way for 10, 15 years, and it's getting worse.
Well, power base is all very well, but what happens when their tax base leaves?
Then they appeal, like Detroit does, to the state or the federal government. Detroit is now getting $850 million from we, the taxpayers of the United States of America, so that they can tear down 94,000 buildings because they've become rat-infested and catch on fire because everyone's left the city. So, that's what happens. I believe Illinois will probably, and eventually, unless there's some Republicans that can finally start making headway, will appeal to the United States government for a bailout.
I knew about 250 of that 800. I missed the other few hundred million there. I'm not a happy camper, but my question to you was, I just called you, 630, Illinois. What are you still doing there?
Well, unfortunately, I'm stuck here because of my mortgage. I have to say, if I didn't have this house and this mortgage in the situation is, I would be living in Tennessee right now.
How are house prices out there? Are they going up, going down, going sideways?
Mostly, if you're lucky, you're staying the same, but most are going down. That's one of the reasons why I'm having problems in my neighborhood. Houses were at 125 and 200,000, and in many cases they're down to $89,000.
Oh,
that's a big hit. You need a bailout.
Yeah, I sure do.
Is that leading to abandoned homes as people just walk away from their mortgages?
Well, interestingly, in my neighborhood, I walk around here since I'm a bohemian and all I do is write all day long. I get out and walk the neighborhood just for some exercise, and I've seen more and more little notices of bankruptcies and banks taking over properties. And this is not a low-class neighborhood at all. This is a perfectly middle-class neighborhood. And I'm seeing more of those every month.
I'm going to switch topics for a quick second. Of all the people that attended that Sam Adams group that weekend, you're one of the few that is now a professional blogger? You know, we here at Granite Grok, we all have regular day jobs, regular families. We do this because we're just obsessed about this, and we do look at this as being our way to fight the battle in the arena of ideas. But tell us, when I first knew you, you still had a regular job. How has your life changed since you've now become, quote-unquote, a professional blogger like Jim Hoft and John Hawkins and a few others that are not affiliated with large sites?
Oh, boy, I'll tell you. For 30-some years, I got up in the morning and got in my car and drove to work. And now I get out of bed and I walk into my den and I start working right here at home. So not having to leave home for work every day is such a strange thing for me. To be home at noon and 1 o'clock and 3 o'clock and here I am just sort of, walking around the neighborhood and saying hi to people. And I'm sure everyone around here thinks I don't work for a living.
You're like, hey, he's unemployed. Look, here he goes.
Has that changed your outlook on how you write, though?
I don't think it has changed my outlook on how I write. I'm still just as dour and the end of the world as I Has it changed the intensity? Do you feel a little less driven because you don't have to get up at the weird hours or stay up until the weird hours? I gotta get it done. That kind of an intensity versus, look, I got all day. I can still crank it out, but I don't have to rush as much. Yeah, I know what you mean. I don't think it has changed my intensity because when I do get going, I'm going. You know what I mean? You guys there?
Yep,
we're here.
Sorry.
Okay, for a second there, things
got real quiet.
Right. Yeah, it did. So I mean, and I write at all different hours of the day. I don't put myself on a schedule. So I may write in the morning, or I may wait till noon, or I may write from 8 p.m. all the way till 2 in the morning. So it depends on the news cycle, really. So that's kind of what drives me.
Uh-oh, did we lose you?
Hello?
Nope, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, so we are having a little issue with the phone. That's why we keep hearing weird things. What do you think? Geez, there's so many things going on that we could talk about. How about school lunches? You talk about school lunches? We talked about it earlier. No, I don't want to talk about school lunches. I'm just sick and tired of that stupid subject. It just drives me crazy. I mean, what?
Take a pot shot in any direction that you want, Warner.
Well, have you guys been talking about the militarized police forces we're getting all across the country, any?
Yes.
Yes, we have, but not today. Go for it.
Well, of course, I don't know if you saw the story, but in Atlanta, some police were trying to bust into an apartment building, and they threw a flashbang grenade right into a baby's crib, into the baby's lap.
Yeah,
and
I
it
saw
blew
that.
up in the baby's face. Yeah. This is the kind of stuff, this is the kind of jackbooted fascism we're seeing in this country with the police forces. And, I say this as a son of a policeman. My father was a policeman his entire adult life. So I don't come from this, with an anti-establishment, I hate cops attitude, because that's not how I grew up. But we are definitely seeing our police forces become military forces and not protecting forces of the people. Don't you believe that they're way out of hand?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. There was an article, I forget whether it was National Review or Spectator this morning, about little town of Waterville, Pennsylvania, a few miles outside of Philadelphia. Completely quiet, peaceful, no real crime to write about. They just got themselves a Bearcat, complete with armor capable of resisting 50 caliber bullets and a gas injection system. So we gas the buggers so they can't fight back. I'm sorry, this is just too much. Bearcats need to be destroyed by the citizens.
And there's no reason for these police forces to have these militarized equipment. And you know what happens when somebody has something, they find a reason to use it.
Right. Certainly, we've seen warrants here in New Hampshire that should normally be served by a cop knocking politely on the door, and a whole SWAT team shows up because somebody might get hurt.
Right. Well, there was a case right up here in Wisconsin about a year or two ago where an entire SWAT team came down on an animal hospital.
Oh, yes.
And totally invaded the animal hospital, broke down the doors with their SWAT, door knockers, because this animal shelter had a baby doe in its possession, and according to DNR laws in the state of Wisconsin, you can't take possession of a wild animal.
Yeah, we blogged about that, and we put up a number of articles, and the stupidest thing that I keep thinking of is, why does the U.S. federal government's Department of Education need a SWAT team?
And then the Agriculture Department this last week or so, arming itself with submachine guns, talking about if you give them something, they'll find an excuse for using it.
And that's exactly the point here. I mean, we're militarizing all these police forces, and as you say, every single department of the federal government has its own SWAT team somewhere, and I do mean all of them, not just a few, but every government agency. And what's the point? And yet they're trying to keep us from being armed.
Right. I mean, none of them need these things. I'm not at the point of saying they should be 100% disarmed. Agents doing dangerous work should have self-defense like the rest of us should have. But they do not need to go in like small armies to handle what's the equivalent of a domestic dispute.
Yeah. It's special operativeness.
Then there's also the story of the Facebook billionaire who was ripped off by teachers' unions and Democrat consultants. I don't know if you've heard of Mark Zuckerberg, who I've been calling Suckerberg because of being a sucker for this. He gave $100 million to the New Jersey public schools in Newark to fix all their schools. He gave this money about 3 years ago. It is now all spent, and it all went to consultants, politicians, and unions. Not a penny went to the kids, and not one single test score was risen by $100 million in expenditure.
Who'd have thought that was going to happen?
Apparently not
Who would
Zuckerberg.
ever have thunk it?
Yeah, well, he learned a lesson, or did he?
He probably won't. He's a liberal.
No, he probably won't. Well, Warner, we've reached the end of our segment, and I want to thank you so much for spending some time with GrokTALK.
Thanks, guys.
All right, have a great weekend. All right, that's the end of the segment with Warner Todd Houston. Regina's out there waiting for us, so if somebody would go grab her, tell me when you need to do that so I can turn that thing off. It's GraniteGrok.com, brought to you by CNHT and Granite Grok, which, with GrokTALK, blah, blah, blah. Well, we're just going to go to the next segment. How about that?
Yes.
All right, we'll be right back. Stay tuned.
New Hampshire is famous for scenic drives, but they're tough to enjoy when you're on your way to the doctor. Because Obamacare limits your choices, some will have to drive more than an hour to see a doctor. What's health insurance worth if care isn't there when you need it? Jean Shaheen voted for Obamacare, putting your doctors and hospitals further out of reach. Tell Senator Shaheen Obamacare is not working for New Hampshire.
Hi, this is Rich Gerard, host of Gerard at Large in the Morning, the Manchester area's only locally owned, locally operated, focused, and interested, riveting radio show, heard live every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 on 90.7 FM WLMW, New Hampshire Family Radio, and available 24/7 live or archived at GerardAtLarge.com. Be sure to tune in.
Senator Jean Shaheen said, if you like your current health plan, you can keep it. That's not true, Senator. 22,000 New Hampshire citizens have been kicked off their insurance plans. Hospitals in Rochester, Concord, and Portsmouth, they aren't allowed to provide care under the exchange. Senator, you were wrong in your comments. You should apologize for your misleading remarks. I'm calling Senator Shaheen at 750-3004 and telling her I want my doctor back. You should too.
Paid for by saberpac.org, not authorized by any candidate or candidate committee.
GrokTALK is 2 hours of news and opinion you could only get from GraniteGrok.com. But don't limit yourself to GrokTALK. Check us out at GraniteGrok.com. Follow us on Facebook or Twitter by searching Granite Grok.
Grok TV.